One of the most common sayings within the anime/manga community is quote, the manga was better. Whether it's a show as a whole or single panels being stupidly compared to anime still shots, the manga always seems to be better for most people. Is it just bias or is there some truth to this manga is superior ideology? In this video, I'll be taking some popular shows and deciding whether or not its manga is better. One small note, only the portion of the manga that's been adapted will be considered for this comparison. So for example, if the anime is Jujutsu Kaisen, only the first 64 chapters of the manga will be considered for this comparison as that's all the anime has covered. Like and subscribe if you enjoy, and let's get started. The first show we'll talk about is Blue Lock. Now it's sort of unfair as the anime hasn't finished airing yet, but whatever. The manga for Blue Lock has stunning art, no two ways about it, but the anime does capture that look quite well. It also features decent movement and match choreography. However, that doesn't mean everything about this anime is perfect. In some cases, the adaptation takes issues the original source had and elevates them even more. The dialogue, for example. Blue Lock is home to some of the most childish, immature, and cringeworthy dialogue in all of manga. However, it feels even worse when you actually hear voice actors say those dumb lines out loud. Again, it's not exactly the anime's fault, however, we can't ignore this either. Of course, Blue Lock is decent visually, but it's not Haikyuu. The movements lack personality, the scenes lack continuity. Haikyuu also features dialogue between matches, but everything still flows well. Also, the CGI nets look absolutely disgusting. Overall, I do think that the manga is better for Blue Lock, but the anime isn't that far away from establishing its superiority. It's entirely possible. It's just hearing those corny lines of dialogue being audibly uttered is hard to stomach. Next up, we have Tokyo Ghoul. And now wait, don't skip ahead. It's common knowledge that the manga is far superior, and I completely agree with that sentiment. However, let me elaborate on why. Because I'm sure a vast majority of the audience who don't like the anime haven't actually read the manga. Also, let me play devil's advocate for a second. The first 4 to 5 episodes are near perfect adaptations of the source. They were still skipping stuff, but not that much. The visuals and the direction was absolutely on point as well. There were praiseworthy attempts at recreating Sui Ishida's ridiculously detailed artwork from the manga. It was obvious that at least the first season had a lot of effort put into it. The competent direction, the fairly common Sakuga cuts, animated by the likes of Narihito Sekikawa, Yuichi Takahashi, and Hironori Tanaka, because of course Tanaka has worked on every single anime there is. This adaptation showed promise, but then somebody thought it was a good idea to adapt well over 60 chapters in 12 episodes. Of course, there's Tokyo Ghoul Route A, which is anime original and just not good. Apparently it's written by the actual author of the manga, Sui Ishida himself, but it's still not good, with all the logical inconsistencies amongst other things. And then there's Tokyo Ghoul Re, yet another rushed adaptation with the only saving grace that the previous seasons had, that being the direction and the visuals, gone. As rushed as season 1 was and as unfaithful as Route A was, they could create a moment when they wanted to. Tokyo Ghoul Re mostly could not. Gone was that extra bit of effort that the previous seasons had. The manga was better. The manga is truly far superior. Please give it a shot if you haven't already. Attack on Titan. There will be separate entries here for Wit Studio and MAPPA. Let's start with Wit Studio's adaptation. It's quite good. The visuals do go downhill with every season, but still. Season 1 was essentially an action show. With visuals so good, you start questioning everything else that you have seen up until that point. I don't recommend watching Attack on Titan as a first anime for new fans, simply because the action animation is so good, it ends up desensitizing people to good animation from that point on. Not only that, it has a bold, larger-than-life direction style thanks to director Tetsuro Araki and his in-your-face approach. The visuals don't necessarily get worse in season 2, it's just that the amount of action is less, which makes a flaw in Wit Studio's adaptation obvious. The lack of any animation outside of action. I've talked about this before, but Attack on Titan essentially conditioned an entire generation of anime fans into thinking that good animation is good action and nothing else. Another huge flaw that the adaptation has is the way they manipulated certain parts of the story. The most obvious example is them taking most of Mikasa's dialogue from the manga and replacing them with the word Eren. I still can't get over it. Why would you do that? However, despite all that, I do think that Wit's adaptation is superior compared to the manga. The artwork in early Attack on Titan was, to put it in a nice way, not that good. Also, the action was nowhere near as dynamic and didn't have such a distinct identity to it. It was the anime that provided the series with all that. Also, the soundtrack. That goddamned soundtrack. The best soundtrack of all time in my humble opinion. Simply because of how versatile and yet how consistently good it is. Moving on to MAPPA's adaptation, it's not fair to judge it based off of the action animation. animation. By the time MAPPA got hold of this series, the tone of the story had shifted to the point where the action didn't exactly matter that much. The gritty political/military atmosphere is perfectly complemented by Yuichiro Hayashi's cinematic storyboards. The large amount of dialogue is a lot easier to digest thanks to the clever shot composition, storyboards, and the occasional character acting. Just like the first 3 seasons, Season 4 feels larger than life, just for different reasons. Instead of the dynamic and explosive action, it has a thematically strong, mature, and well-crafted presentation. Of course, it does have amazing action, the second part that is, and when it came to the important scenes, Hayashi and his team nailed it. From the path segment to the big reveal, from the rumbling activation to the rumbling itself. Even the soundtrack, Kota Yamamoto did a fantastic job. He isn't Sawano, of course, but he's definitely good enough. I think MAPPA's adaptation is slightly better than the manga. Of course, by that point the artwork and the paneling had improved significantly, but still. Here's a rapid fire round. Domestic Girlfriend. The manga is better. The tone in the anime is way too lighthearted, which does a disservice to the story. It also skips some really good moments. That opening though. Horimiya. I actually think that the anime is better. It does skip huge amounts, but since it's a slice of life, no important developments are skipped. The manga also has some jarring time skips, which is thankfully removed in the anime. I love the aesthetic that the anime has with the artwork and the designs. Record of Ragnarok. What do you think? The adaptation was painful to watch. It was horrendous. The manga is truly amazing. Do check it out. Komi Can't Communicate. The anime is better. The care put into the adaptation is obvious. The mostly top tier visuals and the amazing direction makes the repetitive story feel fresh. And that marks the end of the rapid fire comparisons. Finally, we have Ajin. Only the first season, I haven't seen the second one. The reason why I included this is because Ajin is a fully CGI anime, and you know how people act when they come across any and all CGI. So here's the hot take. Here's the unpopular opinion. The anime is better. The manga is absolutely amazing, but the anime outdoes it. It makes use of the CGI to produce some really cinematic scenes. This show feels dynamic. The CGI models look really good, and there's that slight uncanny feeling which works in the show's benefit as it has some really messed up moments. The soundtrack is amazing as well. I truly think that this adaptation perfectly accentuates the source material. A perfect example of CGI being utilized the right way. So that was it. Do you agree with my takes? Comment down below. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and until next time.